Hello everyone, today I want to show you a quick game from Grandmaster Jan Timman against a player with the black pieces named Bakkali. This game was played in Nice, France, 1974. So Timman started out with E4, D5, Scandinavian defense, or the older name, the center counter defense. E takes D5 and knight f6. Now the two main moves here are knight f6 and queen captures on d5. And the downside for most players with this move is that after queen takes d5, white immediately gains tempo on the piece by attacking the queen with his knight. And then there's several different moves from this point. For instance, queen a5 is played, queen d6 are the main moves, and then sometimes even queen d8. So there's plenty of games with those moves, starting with queen takes d5. The final verdict on this opening for black is that white does maintain a nice is able to obtain a nice space advantage in the center, and pretty much the same applies after e takes d5 and knight f6. Black tries to delay the capture so that he can use his knight instead of his queen to capture the pawn, basically using a less valuable piece. And then, for instance, after knight, say after knight c3, knight takes d5, the knight is can just hang out in the center. It's not too bad for black in that case. If it was the queen, he would be in a whole lot of trouble, but the knight can do it. And basically, it's the same verdict with the knight coming out to f6. Is that basically the downside of the opening from black's point of perspective or point of view is that he loses time, even if he captures with the knight. Even if he captures this pawn with the knight, white is always able to push these central pawns and push the knight out of the center, and then just simply develop his pieces, and he gets a nice space advantage, a nice positional advantage. So this is why you do not see this opening played too much at grandmaster level. And like I always say, there's always somebody, some grandmaster. There's so many grandmasters in the world now. There's always some grandmaster that's playing in the opening. And I think Grandmaster Tivyakov uh, actually plays this, but he plays a line with queen takes d5 and then retreats um, his queen to d6 after knight c3. I don't think he plays the queen a5 lines. So if you are interested in this opening, check some of GM Tivyakov's games out. Alright, so after knight f6 from Bakkali, Timman played natural move d4, knight takes d5, and c4, knight b6. So we see already white's influence in the center. So the question for black is, can he neutralize the center? Can he tear it down? Can he make it a burden and a liability for white? If so, black has a good game. If not, then black will have a cramped game and white will have a nice positional advantage that will endure to the end game. So after knight b6, the natural move knight f3 was played by Timman. Black played bishop g4, and the pin on the knight creates pressure on the center. So, although tactically suspect, Black's idea is good. He wants to destroy the center. He wants to take here. Say, for instance, let's make a bad move. H3, queen takes h3. He wants to take the center. And then on queen takes b7, this knight here is protecting the rook in the corner. So black could just continue on with the move like e6. And black has achieved his objective. He has destroyed white center. And we can say that he has a even game. So going back, knight b6, knight f3, bishop g4. How is Timman to deal with this plan? Would you play bishop e3 here? It's possible. Develops a piece and protects the d4 pawn at the same time, although the bishop is kind of like a glorified pawn. And if you think about it, would you really want to turn your bishop into a pawn? That's a really defensive move, and that kind of gives credence to black's opening. If you got to make a move like that, you want that bishop on an open diagonal. You don't want that bishop here. So is that a move that you really want to make? You want to try to seize the initiative. And after a move like e5, uh, exploiting this pin right here and putting more pressure on the white center, I have to say black is pretty good there. So what did Timman do here? He played c5, and you might say, "Whoa, this is exactly what black wants, right?" He got him to weaken his pawn structure because the pawns are the strongest when they're together. Now this pawn is pushed. The knight will hop right back in, and black has to be okay. He'll play e6 or g6, bishop g7 or c6, etc., etc. And all those are great ideas. However, black's position is a little bit loose tactically, and before black can realize those dreams, he must defend himself from white's oncoming attack. So queen b3 is played, and the problem is how to defend this pawn. So the black player played b6, and again it looks good, just on first glance, because again he's attacking the black center. Excuse me, he's attacking the white center. It looks like he's doing his job here. However, after the simple move, knight e5, the game is over, and black had to resign as his bishop is threatened, and bishop b4 check is threatened, because now this pawn cannot defend. So for instance, after knight e5, say you just try to go back with bishop g4, with bishop d7. Well, now this knight will be unprotected because the bishop will be blocking here. And then queen would just take the knight on d5. So that's not possible. What about bishop e6? Right, protecting the bishop and protecting the knight and x-raying against the queen. Well, that's where the other move comes in. Bishop b5 check. And now something has to be done here. Well, what about knight d7? If knight d7, you have the same scenario. Now you just take, right? This bishop is overworked and can't defend two pieces at once. So he has to capture the check, because if he doesn't defend the check, the queen will have to come. But then knight just takes queen. So the less valuable of the pieces does the work. And after bishop takes d7, here's the queen again. And then notice the x-ray behind it. Even if this knight were somehow to be able to move out of danger, which he can't because he doesn't, it's not his turn, but if he was able to say move to f6, then it would be made anyway on f7 from the queen and knight combination. So for instance, if the knight was able to go to f6, so this, my friends, is the purpose of that move, c5. It looks anti-positional, but there's a solid idea and thread attached to it. Because black has become a little weak on the light squares here. So after c5, again knight d5 and queen b3. And probably best here for black is probably, I mean, after queen b3, bishop c8. That's just falling behind in development too much, especially after just simple move like knight c3. So the best move here, instead of b6, which was obviously an error, maybe knight c6, just simply giving up the pawn. But I still think that play a move like that and then try to use your lead in development as black to turn into a tactical slugfest. But I still think that white stands better here. Yeah, for instance, bishop d7. And I think that's the best that black can hope for. But again, I think white still has the advantage. So anyway, that was Jan Timman versus Bakkali from Nice, 1974. A little miniature in the Scandinavian opening. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. And I can see you guys later.